Hello, friends and beautiful people. Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of All Things Ascension. We are in episode 21 of All Things Ascension. And today we're talking about expect the impossible and unconventional. This is such an important thing to sink our teeth into right now. And we're starting to just question and judge and feel chaotic in our thinking about practically everything, especially those things that have felt really familiar to us for so long and have defined our personal reality, have allowed us to create an identity of who we think we are based on what has been. And we're going through a massive period of uncreating. And that is just the energetic handshake. That is the energetic commerce of the cosmos. That in order to create the new, we have to uncreate. So we're going to talk about this in maybe a little bit of a fun way. I'm going to tell you a little story to start off. But if you're here, say hello. Hey, Kathryn. Say hi. Happy Saturday. So I want to start off by telling a little story. When I was a little girl, I loved Barbies. Like I had all the Barbies that were like, you know, the conventional Barbies. And then I had a Cher doll. I had a Wonder Woman Barbie doll. Like I had to have all the Barbies. I had such a massive collection. And I would spend hours, and I mean hours, playing by myself and creating like a whole Barbie world. I had probably at one time, you too, Kathryn, I probably had like 12 or 14 Barbies. Maybe at the height, I had 15 at any given time. And I loved them so much. They all had names and they had backstories. They had hobbies, they had gifts, they had talents. I could even hear what their voice, if they could speak, would sound like. I had created this whole world that was very textured, very rich, very elaborate and detailed. And I created it all from my imagination. And this kept building. I created this foundation of this world and it kept building, it kept evolving. Barbies would have new jobs or, they'd get hired as a new television broadcaster or, there'd be these elaborate things going on that I would create, and it would take me hours and hours to like map out and create, and I would draw pictures and I would think of new outfits to get for them based on what I would draw, and I'd put them in different scenarios. There'd be dramas, almost like soap operas playing out, and it was this whole world that I had created, all from just my imagination. And it was no less real to me, especially because I spent hours with creating this world, mapping it out, living it, and playing God, if you will, in the Barbie world, and, creating the narratives of all these Barbies. And even though I knew, of course, that it was play, but I always felt like, there's something more to this. You too, Kathryn, that there's something more to this. Like, why does it feel so real, though? Why is it that I can spend hours doing this? And I know that there's another world outside of this bedroom and of my house that requires a different level of engagement. But I'm just as engaged with this world that is fake or play as I am with anything else, maybe even more so, because I feel like I have some say-so here. I feel like I have some control here. I feel like I have some creative control here. And I'm in charge of different scenarios and how things play out and how I react or have the Barbies react through me to different scenarios. And it all felt very evolved and real to me, even though, of course, I knew that it wasn't. And I was always given this idea that this means something. This isn't just play. And I didn't realize until much, much later on that this is how we create our own worlds. That in the 3D time-space matrix, we are the dream weavers of this matrix. We are the creators here. Humans are the keepers of 3D. We have very much created the world as a collective. We've collectively agreed on what reality would be, and we've created things individually in our individuated consciousness to corroborate that collective validation. And we've done this over and over and over again. So in a way, it's really no different than sitting and playing with your Barbies and creating this whole world around it. We just think it's silly and relegate it to the realm of, oh, that's just play, that's whatever. And this memory that I have that's been cropping up lately of me playing with my Barbies, and this other part of the story, which is I had a great Aunt Marguerite. She was my mother's sister. And she had no children of her own. And for some reason, she really bonded with me. I didn't bond with a lot of my extended family. In fact, almost none of my extended family, because I was kind of the black sheep of the family. I was a weirdo and I was outspoken about certain things because I called bullshit even when I was a little kid. Even when I should have been respecting my elders. Anyway, my great Aunt Marguerite, she had no kids of her own. And sometimes when she would come over to our house to visit, you come up and say, knock on my door, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? And she would, without judgment, we're still playing Barbies, absolutely. Without any judgment, she would observe what was going on and she would just hang out and watch me play. She wouldn't try to be involved or try to push her energy on me or anything like that. She would just observe me at play and seeing how I would create these worlds and the things that, made me build my own world. So what she turned around and did was she would knit, by the way, Barbie clothes for me. So she would look at some of the drawings that I would make of these Barbie clothes and she's like, I can do that. I can help you build this world. So she would go and she would knit Barbie clothes. Yes, they were clunky and ill-fitting, but this amazing woman was like, I see what you're doing and I see how imaginative this is and how fun this is. I'm going to help you build this world. She also made these, do you guys know what fun fur is? It comes in different colors and whatever. It's this polyester fur and you can buy it by the yard at Joann Fabrics and stuff. But she created these couches, Barbie couches, with a matching love seat and chairs and an ottoman. And she constructed these with the help of her son, covered in magenta fun fur. I wish so much, if I had any pictures from my childhood, which I really don't, that I had a picture of that couch set. Because she created this for me so that my Barbies could have a place to hang out and chill with each other. Again, I'll help you build that world. How fun. And I thought it makes it more real then. And this is what I thought even as a little kid. If even there's one other person on board with how it feels to create this world and wants to get in on some of this excitement, some of this action with me of creating Barbie worlds, it becomes more real, doesn't it? It builds out even more. It becomes more visceral. It becomes something that just feels like it's filled out. There's no empty spaces anymore. And now you have someone to share this world with. So whenever she would come over, she would ask about what's going on. Who's dating who? What's going on? What kind of Barbie has this new job or whatever? And she got into it with me. And I love that because she was the only person that ever did that with me. Ever. My parents, they were just like, why is she alone in her room for hours and hours and hours? And they would come and check on me and be like, are you okay up here? I'm like, yep, I'm fine. I was an awkward kid. I was way too sensitive, too empathic to be around other kids too much because it was too much. The energy was too much. So I enjoyed insulating myself in my own little world, and sometimes I felt like I didn't have much of a choice. So here was this amazing woman that stepped in and wanted to join me in that place that I had created, my safety zone, my place of solace. Not only did I invite her in, but she was someone who came to be like a bestie in that world with me and have fun with me without any judgment. I never felt like, oh, that's just little Kathy doing her thing. Like, she was totally on board with whatever I wanted to do, and I thought it was fantastic. And I wish I could have appreciated her more for that at the time, but whatever, I was a little kid. And so this memory keeps popping up for me lately. And it's been coming up in dreams where I keep replaying the interactions that I had with Great Aunt Marguerite and the worlds that I would create and how that felt. It felt very empowering. It felt limitless and boundless. And it felt like whatever I could picture in my mind, I could create it. And here's the thing. Here's why I'm telling you this story. The New Earth timeline that we have entered into, we're not waiting on it. It's here. We have ushered it in. We just haven't. Yes, I am Kathy from my family. Not many people call me Kathy because I don't like it. I don't like the name Kathy. It makes me feel like a little kid, which was not a happy time for me. So I like Kathryn. I've always identified better with Kathryn. And the spelling of my name, which is the same as yours, Kathryn, so I love it even more. But with this New Earth timeline that is here, we just haven't fully anchored it yet. Because there's a part of us that believes that we're not really actively creating what is next. And we will only fully and completely anchor this New Earth timeline if we stop believing that, things are still impossible, that the unconventional can't be. And the reason why things feel so uncomfortable, sure, there are solar surges, sure, the moon and whatever, if you're, reacting to the moon. I don't anymore. I try to stay away from the moon. I have a whole big thing about that. If you want to know more, I will give you a video about it, about the lunar matrix. But you can say that all, ascension symptoms, all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, what's really happening is we're still acting like we are still the same people in the same old Earth timeline. We're not. It's like trying to put on a shirt that's 3 sizes too small. That's why we're uncomfortable. Because we're being invited by the universe to enter into this place of play like we did when we were little kids. When we had that irrepressible sense of play, childlike innocence and sense of wonder. That is how we create from love. And we're being invited all the time to let go of the idea of what is impossible. And when I was introducing this talk today, I made mention of the fact that I've made it a point to distance myself from people who like to say things like that's impossible, or it can't be done that way, or it can't be done, period, full stop, or you're too much of a dreamer. Things just don't happen like that. I've heard that my whole freaking life. And it's still never really fully made a dent in me. There might have been a couple periods in my life where I was really feeling low and feeling like nothing was working out, where I felt like, well, maybe that is true. Maybe things aren't done that way. But why would I be given this sense? Why would I be gifted with this idea that really nothing is impossible? And if you can imagine it, it can be so. Why would any of us be given that impetus, that deep knowing or feeling within us that's like, no matter what bullshit gets poured on top of it, someone else's perspective, someone else's very informed opinions on top of it, why is that feeling still there? That perhaps really nothing is impossible. The 5-minute mile was impossible for a lot of people for a long time until someone did it, and now it's commonplace. And I always use the example of, and I can never remember his name, but the Kenyan runner who ran the marathon in way less than the previously held record time. And now that's pretty commonplace too. Shit is impossible until it isn't. And who's deciding that anyway, of what's impossible? Is that the mainstream story and the narrative that it's just presumed to be this way? And why? Who says? Who created those rules? I had no say-so in the creation of those rules of who gets to say what's impossible and what isn't. So why would I buy into it? I never felt like I had to. And I felt like, as I'm remembering all of these memories now from my childhood, and the feeling that that gives me is that I had a very keen sense of there is no such thing as impossible. Or even if there is an idea of maybe conventional too, who says that I have to buy into that? And what do I get out of it if I do? I don't get to display my unique expression of my imagination, my creativity, if I'm following those rules. And that always felt very stifling to me. It felt very claustrophobic to me. And so maybe it meant a lot of times that I wouldn't engage with the general population so much because I felt like these were people who live in the realm of that's impossible, that's unconventional, it's not done that way. From a very young age, I didn't want to be around those people. And I certainly don't want to be around them now because as we have fully ushered in this new earth timeline, we just haven't anchored it yet. Through my imagination, creativity, your imagination, your creativity, you get to create what's next. And what's uncomfortable during this period is the uncreation of what has been, that has held us back, that has allowed us to feel limited, very claustrophobic in our divine human expression. You know, you can decide at any moment, even if you have been someone who's been known to say that's impossible or it can't be done. First of all, ask yourself if that's even your voice saying that, or did you inherit that belief somewhere? Second, you know, what does it mean to hold on to convention in a time now where we have shed many layers that held the structures of reality in place over the last year, year and a half? I wouldn't say that we've lost a lot of identifying factors that define us as a human species, and I'm talking planet-wide here. This is global. Rather, I would side with the thinking, the believing that perhaps what went away was something that was holding us back anyway, that wasn't for the greater good anyway, that was only serving the needs of the few rather than the needs of the many. And perhaps in that, nothing is lost. It needed to be uncreated in order to make room for what's new. And so what is new? Well, perhaps what is aligned for the highest and best for you and for the highest and best good of all, aligned with the God choice. If you followed me for a while, I talk about this a lot. And also aligned with the least amount of resistance for all involved. What if what's next can be easy? What if what's next can be joyful? What if what's next can be fulfilling and satisfying, and not just for the few, but for the many? And we can have a different shared experience on this planet now that doesn't align with fear, want, and lack, but rather aligns with joy, fulfillment, an exciting childlike sense of wonder and expectation built on love instead of fear. What if that is what anchors this new earth timeline now? Not trying to fit into that shirt that's 3 sizes too small and identifies with the old earth timeline. And so how do you begin aligning with this? Start looking at those moments when you are really uncomfortable, where you would say, oh, it's just an ascension symptom. Oh, it's just the solar flares. Oh, it's just increased geomagnetic activity. Oh, it's just the moon. Okay. Unravel that. What is beneath that? What are you feeling? Where do you feel it in your body? When you connect with that part of your body, what is it telling you? Your own body is the most unique and reliable biofeedback mechanism for giving you information in real time about what's going on. One of the things that we're invited to uncreate is this idea that all the information comes from up here. A lot of it is us filtering through the mental matter of 4D, the collective soup of the collective unconscious, which is comprised of previously held beliefs, and not very good ones or self-fulfilling ones. Not very good self-affirming ones. But instead we can go into our bodies for our own biofeedback and find out, okay, what's really going on here? Am I uncomfortable in my body because of the moon? Or am I uncomfortable because I'm still trying to fit a square peg into a round hole somewhere in my life? I'm trying to approach a completely new frontier situation, entanglement in my life from the same old me that I've always been. Could it be that? It might be that. Does this resonate for you guys? It's time to start believing, truly believing, without resistance and with full trust, that you are the dream weaver of the Matrix. We've collectively agreed to something that was lesser than before. It didn't suit us all. It only suited a handful of people, really. And they've profited off of our disenfranchisement for long enough. Yeah? Yeah. Can you completely go into this place right now and say, I am the creator. I am the creator. I decide. And I don't have to negotiate or compromise or sacrifice in order to create the reality that fits me in the highest and best way and can also be aligned with the highest and best way for others. And I could enter into this with ease and joy, least resistance. Can you believe that? Because the allowance that is needed here must come from you. It's giving yourself permission to allow that. There's no one out there to ask for permission to be a creator of your reality, and it's time to let that illusion go. And here's the thing about this blended earth reality. We are in 3D, 4D, 5D. We're vacillating between different frequency ranges all the time. This is also part of what's uncomfortable. Because a lot of us who are dipping our big toe in 5D more and more and feeling a sense of unity consciousness, creating from love instead of fear, it's harder and harder for us to go back to 3D. It's harder and harder for us to go back to the lower hubs of 4D, where we feel we are being victimized by the collective narrative of what is so, of what is believed to be true, of what is believed to be reality. Because deep down we know that that illusory impermanent level of being that's aligned with the 3D time-space matrix that is all illusion-based, what's really settling in and what's really making us uncomfortable is realizing that maybe in a not good way, that we've allowed ourselves to create something that wasn't for our highest and best good, and we were in charge of that the whole time. That can be one of those very uncomfortable things that we have to reconcile with, and we need to resolve that in our energy. And you can just simply forgive yourself for creating a not idealized situation for you because you didn't know any better at the time. How about you just give yourself permission and you allow yourself to receive that forgiveness? How about you allow yourself that opportunity to just get off the hook for bad choices, bad decisions you've made before? You're not there anymore, unless you keep believing you are. You wake up every day with a clean slate. And the universe is asking you to decide when you wake up with that clean slate. Do you want to go off of the way you create your day, the way you create your reality going forward? Well, I can't do that because that's impossible. Or I can't do that because that's unconventional, because that keeps relegating you and putting all of your energetic eggs in the basket of the old earth timeline, where limitation, fear, lack, and want run that matrix. Or you get to say, you know what? I'm going to do something incredible today. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to do something incredible today. When I wake up in the morning, how I shift, and even if I'm feeling like crappy or weird or whatever, and there's a lot of those mornings because I don't sleep too well these days. But I completely change it around because I know that I have the power to completely change around any way I'm feeling at any time and give myself that clean slate. And I can do it throughout the day. It's not just I wake up in the morning with a clean slate. I can decide I have a clean slate at 2 in the afternoon if I want to. So can you. But in the morning, I decide, you know what? I'm going to really help at least 2 people today. And that's not hard for me. Granted, because I have a lot of content that I share with people that's all about love and unity consciousness and bringing up the vibration of the planet and living your best life and living beyond your self-perceived limitations and all of that. And I have so much content out there between YouTube and my member vault and my website and doing lives like this, my Facebook groups. But it's this constant drive to want to create from this feeling of, I want to do something incredible. That's always going to come from a place of love, never from fear. Yes, I understand feeling annoyed by the people so eager to get back to normal. And what was that anyway? And was it even that good to begin with? Again, we're talking about a paradigm and structures that allowed the cream and the pale to rise to the top. It benefited the few and not the many. And this is all shifting, this is all changing, and it's very exciting. And we get to decide what to do with all this incredible energetic mana of creation. Every day when you wake up in the morning, you get to decide, because when you do that on an individual level, that feeds into the collective consciousness. That ripples out. If you're holding this space in your heart of, I'm going to help somebody today, or I'm going to do something incredible, I'm going to help myself today, is even a great way to wake up and start. I'm going to take a step in a direction that's maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but everything in my whole being, every fiber of my body is saying, this is what's right. This is what is aligned. This brings me into the momentum of carrying something forth that is the highest and best good for me, the highest and best good for all, and with the least amount of resistance for all involved. I just need to take that step. And it doesn't have to be a massive quantum leap. It can just be you kind of gently wriggling yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. That's enough, believe me, that's enough. Because with that small action forward is what's behind it is the most important thing. It's the feeling and acting on the feeling that there is something better for me. If there's something better for me, there can be something better for everyone. What if you just woke up every day and felt that way about your life? And when you're in that place energetically, when you are in that spectrum of consciousness of, I'm going to do something incredible, I'm going to help somebody today, I'm going to help myself today, I'm going to do this because it's right and it feels good, you are creating from a place of love. You can create from a place of fear. We've done that. We've created a lot of things in the 3D matrix and the old Earth timeline from fear. But that is an exhaustive supply of energy. It's not self-sustaining. That energy runs out. And when that energy and that matrix, that grid runs out, we start pulling from our own trauma to create. And we all know where that gets us. More fear, more lack, more blame, more resentment, more victimhood. We hit a glass ceiling over and over and over again. We have the same self-identifying perspective of self, right? Nothing ever works out for me. I get a little bit of a little head, and once I get a little bit ahead, everything just falls apart again. Or I get something, I manifest something, and then somebody takes it away. When we're creating from that level of fear in the old Earth grid, that's always how you're going to feel with your manifestations. Use the illusion of the 3D time-space matrix, bleh. Use the illusion of the 3D, which is the realm, the energetic realm where we are the keepers of it. We are the creators of this dream weave that makes up 3D. Use this illusion, but then pull from that part of you that's also dipping that big toe in 5D. When you feel those moments of very high elation, you feel ecstatic love or ecstatic expansion, that's you in 5D. When you feel really a strong connection to a person or a community or a situation, you witness something that makes you feel profound love inside, that's you in 5D. That's what that is. That's the New Earth timeline. It is here. We just haven't anchored it yet. But the more we keep pulling from the energetic mana, the resource, the supply of energy that comes from 5D, and create from that level, and do that so that we have physical material manifestations of that in 3D, you're mastering your reality. You're mastering your emotional space. You're mastering your sovereign authority. You are acting as the highest agent of elevated consciousness on your own behalf and for the behalf of the rest of the planet. That's a very empowering place to be. And it allows for a lot of seamless, joyful manifestations, showing up in ways that you couldn't predict or see before from a very limited, veiled perspective. I hope that this information sits well with you. I'm going to leave that here. If you want more of how this feels and want to know how to create from this New Earth timeline, pulling that energetic mana from that, In Alignment is the course that I'm teaching coming up in August 10th. You get to save $500 off of it if you purchase this course before the 4th of June, 2021. I highly recommend it. This is going to be an expanded and advanced 8-week program starting August 10th, meeting weekly on Zoom. And if you are done with creating your life from fear, you are done trying to fit yourself into a shirt that's 3 sizes too small, done with being a square peg fitting into a round hole. That's you trying to be you in the perspective of the old Earth timeline and anchor this new reality. It's not going to work. It's not going to fit. They are 2 energetic mismatches. So let's clean it up. Let's get you in alignment. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. And I want to wish you all lots of love and peace. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.